never thought the place I loved most in the world would be silenced by concrete. A clear, beautiful spring that had flowed on this land for generations was cut off overnight by the very people who claimed to protect the neighborhood, the HOA. But here's the twist: that spring wasn't just mine. It was feeding the entire community. For over 40 years, that spring had been the heart of our land. It bubbled year-round, clear as glass. It was more than a water source. It was a place of peace, where my kids used to catch frogs, where deer visited at dawn. We never needed bottled water. That spring was our lifeline. When I bought this property, the deed even referenced the spring's right of use. It ran into a catchment, filtered naturally, then flowed through underground lines to my home, and, as I would later find out, to many others, that we had an HOA, the Lakeside Ridge Community Board. It started small. Rules about lawn, height, garbage bins, and street packing. Reasonable stuff, at first. But a few years in, a new board took over. They were more aggressive, more controlling. Then came the letter. Unapproved water feature. Must be removed. They claimed the spring was a liability. Said it could breed mosquitoes, attract wildlife, pose a risk. I wrote back, explaining that this wasn't some koi pond. It was a spring. Natural, protected, essential. I got no reply. Then, one weekday afternoon, it happened. I came home from work and heard machines. Down by the spring were workers with jackhammers and hoses. A cement truck idled nearby. My heart dropped. I rushed down. "What are you doing?" One guy shrugged, said he was told to cap a leaking feature. Another handed me a work order from the HOA. My name wasn't on it. No permit, no warning. They filled it in. A thick, gray slab. The water stopped, just like that. That night, I noticed my faucet pressure was low. My toilets wouldn't refill. I assumed it was a pipe issue. But by the next morning, my neighbor texted, "Is your water out?" Within hours, over 30 homes had reported dry taps. People were panicking. Someone called the city. But we weren't on city water. That's when it hit me. The spring. It didn't just serve me. It served us all. I dug out old subdivision blueprints, visited the county office, and there it was. A water map from the 1980s, showing a community water share fed by a natural spring. My spring. It had been diverted through filtration tanks and piped into dozens of homes. The HOA had no clue, or maybe they did. I sent the HOA copies of the blueprints. Their reply, silence. I emailed again, no answer. Then my neighbor, who works in IT, found an old email chain between HOA members. It showed board discussions about removing the outdated water source to modernize utility reporting. They knew. Bottled water sold out. Parents filled tubs just to flush toilets. Some elderly neighbors had to move in with family. A local news crew even showed up. The HOA refused to comment. People were furious. Who gave them the right? Why weren't we told? The HOA called a meeting. We packed the clubhouse. I showed them the documents, the blueprints, the emails. Their lawyer said it was a miscommunication. I filed a CIC assist, then a civil suit for destruction of property and endangering public access to water. Over a dozen neighbors joined me. Our attorney uncovered more. The HOA had bypassed state environmental reviews. The concrete poured without a permit. We weren't just right, we were legally right. 3 months later, under legal pressure and public scrutiny, the HOA caved. They brought in crews to break the concrete. I watched as the first crack revealed a glint of water underneath. Then, a bubble, a trickle, a gush. The spring was alive, and it wanted to flow. They rebuilt the filtration system, reinforced the lines. The water returned to every tap. The HOA president resigned. New bylaws were passed to protect shared natural resources. But more than that, something changed in the neighborhood. We weren't just neighbors anymore. We were protectors of what we had almost lost. They filled my spring with concrete. But what they didn't know was that they were messing with something deeper than water. They were messing with life, with trust. And when you mess with those things, the neighborhood fights back. Let this be a reminder. Sometimes, you have to stand still and let nature speak, even if you have to crack through concrete to hear it. Based on true events, names and locations have been changed for privacy.